Three books, one war. Alone, they are great, but together, they paint a more realistic story of Vietnam than I've ever seen before. Hi, welcome to Boozy Bees Books and Cocktails. I'm Dana B. I have been very hesitant to review one of these books, and just because I didn't think that I could paint a picture and it be worthy of the book. And then I read this book, The World Played Chess by Robert Dugoni, and it gave me the idea that maybe instead of reviewing or discussing or introducing you guys to one book, I would introduce you to three. And it really does give a wonderful overview of what really went on in Vietnam. So I'm going to try to do it justice, and I hope you'll hang in there with me. And then we will make a cocktail. Two of these books deserved the Manhattan. One of them kind of felt flat for me, so I wanted to do something that really gave the Vietnam War, I don't know, something. And so we're going to make a paper plane cocktail, and I think it goes very lovely with these books. So the first book is called The World Played Chess by Robert Dugoni, and he wrote this in a three timeline period, and it's from a male point of view of what happened in the war. And so you have a Vietnam vet, you have 10 years later, you have a young man that's fixing to go to college. So he would have been the same age that William was when he headed to Vietnam War. And then it jumps to Vincent's son, Bo, who is just recently graduated from high school, and he's fixing to go to college. And so this is about three generations of men and how the war affected them, past and present. So William was over in Vietnam, and when he while he was in Vietnam, he kept a journal, and he went over there to be a journalist and ended up being a photographer. But he also fought in the war, and so he kept this journal in a tiger can, and he kept it in his breast pocket. And so as he was going through the war, he would write stuff down. So then he meets Vincent 10 years later on a construction site. And like I said, Vincent is graduated high school and he is going to college. And so William kind of gives him lessons, life lessons along the way. And they strike up a really good friendship. And but William is dealing with a lot of post trauma, sorry, PTSD. And so Vincent doesn't know how to handle it. And so time switches again, and it's Vincent being the father to a graduating senior. And Vincent's son, Bo, goes through some personal struggles. And William had sent Vincent his journal. And so while Bo is going through high school, Vincent is reading it, and he remembers all these words of wisdom that he gives his son. So I enjoyed the story. I didn't like the way that, and I love Robert Dugoni, don't get me wrong, but I didn't like the way that he made William's situation and compared it to what Bo was going through. I just felt like, yes, grief is grief, but the situation that William went through and seeing so many people destroyed and bodies destroyed and land destroyed, and it just did not hit right with me with what Bo, the son, went through. It's a great read, very technical on the machinery and the gunnery, and sometimes it was some graphics that was needed, I guess. But I would to put it in the 3 books section, yes, it fit very, very well. So I'm very, very glad that I read this book. So I'm just very glad that I read the book. And there was a couple of statements in there that made me think about the generation that I was raised in and their fathers, because these boys go to war at 18, and that's when they're supposed to be learning how to be a father, and then they come back and they're something totally different. So that made me stop and think about that. So in my previous film or episodes, I did one on this book, and I just felt like that it needed to be brought back up because this is such a great book. And gosh, I would say that it's one of my beloved ones now because it just really, really touched my heart. And it's called Dust Child, and it's by Win Thon Q May, and I hope I got that correct. And what the story that it tells is the Vietnamese people and what they went through during the Vietnam War. And it deals with 3 different perspectives. It's the young women over there and how they had to, or you know, made the choice to go into the bars and be bar girls. And then when they had children, um, the children were left behind. And then now we have this generation of children that are part Vietnamese and part American, and they're just now finding their fathers. And it's just absolutely heartbreaking. And she did such a wonderful, wonderful job. And I had never thought about this part of the war, and I hate that for myself. And please go back and look at the other episode that I did, because I deal in a lot of grief for these people, and I still do. But she did such a great job. And she does have a Vietnam vet that goes back over after the war, and he tries to secretly find a child that he knows that he left behind. And so this book really sparked a lot of Google searches about the children that are left behind, which were called dust children. And they didn't have really a place in the world because the Vietnamese people didn't accept them, and then the American fathers, a lot of them didn't accept them. So this is a wonderful, wonderful book. And I would, if I had been rating it at the time, I would have given it a 5 and a Manhattan. And so I would love for you to read this book and let me know. So then this is the book that started my whole quest of the Vietnam War. And this is The Women by Kristin Hannah. And I really didn't know that I wanted to review this book because it is the first time I read it when it first came out, because Kristin Hannah is one of those authors that if she puts something out, I'm going to read it. And I love her. This one made me realize, and I didn't realize, that there were women over in the war that were nurses and other things, in other positions, that the government did not even acknowledge that was over there. And they gave their lives for the war and for these men, and weren't recognized by anyone until just here lately. And so Kristin Hannah does a wonderful, wonderful job writing these women's stories. And the story is about Frankie, and she is a young woman that is from a very privileged home, and she decides to sign up to go to war as a nurse because her brother Finley is over there, and so she wants to be close to him. And she's from a family that's a very war oriented family, a long list of families, and they have a war wall, and on that war wall there's all these men. And so the statement is made, women can be heroes too. And so she goes to Vietnam, and she shares the stories of Vietnam, and she falls in love a couple of times, and gets her heart broken a couple of times. And so we follow through with her. And so she comes back home, and she gets the treatment of being spit on, and no one is there to help her. And it is just heartbreakingly beautiful. Such a beautiful, beautiful book. And so when you put all 3 of these together, you really do get a complete story or view of this one war that was absolutely tore our world apart. And it affected people in different ways. I thought about the young men that went to Vietnam in this one. I thought about the people that were already there that we invaded and came into their country and then left children behind. And it just broke my heart. And then we also, the women that were not recognized. And this also made me think about my mother-in-law, and I had never put myself in her place where I was letting my 18-year-old go and fight a war and get all this propaganda saying that it was a great thing, and then all of a sudden our country turns against them, the men that came back and the women that came back. So let me know what you guys think if you've read any of these books, and I'd love to have a discussion with you. I hope I did a fairly good job telling you about these books, and I hope you get the time to read them because they're a great book. And I actually did read this one twice, and I listened to them all on Audible, so that was a really good experience for me. But I did listen to this one twice, and the second time around, I learned some other things and didn't quite. I don't know. There was a couple of things I felt like the Frankie got a little whiny on me, and just wanted to slap her a couple of times. So, but again, I'm not hadn't been put in her position. So, anyway, the cocktail that I'm going to make today is called a paper plane, and I was in a restaurant in Fayetteville. At a wedding reception, and I love bourbon. And this lady, the bartender, she was like, "Oh, girl, let me make you. If you love bourbon, have you tried a paper plane?" And I was like, "No, I've never tried one of those." And so she introduced me to this. So I'm going to recreate it for you today. And so I'm using Four Roses bourbon. I'm using Aperol, and this is Amaro Nano. I probably just killed the name of that, but anyway, it's really really good. I looked it up just before I came on, and now I can't remember what it was, how it's done. So we're gonna do, and it's all the same amounts, so it's really easy to mix if you've got the right ingredients. So it's 3/4 ounces of Amaro Nano, and then there's another word that's great or big. And us Southern girls can hardly say those words, so I'm going to stick with that. Then Aperol. Then we've got 3/4 of this Kentucky bourbon. So we're kind of getting all the people that was involved in the Vietnam War involved in this drink. So 3/4 ounces. And then we've got 3/4 ounces of lemon juice, freshly squeezed. Make sure we put the lids on everything, so I'll have it all over the floor and everywhere else. I have got a chilled coupe glass, and I did the little heart today because these are so close to my heart, and they broke my heart and everything else, so I thought that would be appropriate cocktail glass. You know, I love a good cocktail glass. If you can, I don't know what it is about a cocktail glass. So I'm going to shake this until you can't hardly hold the shaker because it's so cold. And it incorporates everything really good. And then we're going to strain it. Oops, see? Gosh, it just, half of it just jumped out of there. And it makes this beautiful blush color. And while I was thinking about the paper plane, I also thought about my brothers and how they used to make little paper planes for me and would swish them through the house, but I can't make a paper plane very well, so it'd be a nice little garnish on here. So we're going to try this, and this is one of my favorites, probably number 2 cocktail. Oh, so good. Whew, that is so good. So refreshing, so good. And my cheer, my dedication is, I had to write it down, to the stories that stay and the ones that we still need to hear. So cheers. Thank you so much for joining me. I hope that you'll check these books out. And if you haven't already read them, they are worth the read for sure. And let me know what you think. I would love to hear your comments. I would love to hear if you loved any of these books. I know a lot of people out there have read The World Play Chess and The Women, but I don't know if you've read this one, and this one is a good one. So thank you very much again. Thank you. Thank you. I hope you'll like, share, and subscribe, and cheers.
Cheers!